as soon as regulations or restrictions allow UK companies to operate, reach out to your database and say, hey, we want to get going. What do you think? Because you get a pretty clear indication from that, what's on people's minds. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were the same as Australia and just said, look, we're all in, let's go for it.
Okay, hi, we're here with Andrew Smith, all the way from Australia. Yep. And Andrew, you run an MD Jungle Sports over there. Can you? Great to have you with us. Of course, thanks very much for giving up your time to speak to me. And I'm sure a lot of the clubs over in the UK and Ireland will be really interested to hear what's happening on the other side of the world right now.
Yeah.
First of all, can you maybe tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you? Who are Jungle Sports? What are you guys all about?
Yeah, of course. Look, I'm basically MD, one of the owners, and I own the business with my wife, and we've had it for probably about 6 years. And Jungle Sports is a multi-sports provider for kids and parents, roughly from about 18 months through to 6 years. We cover 9 different sports. We do term time classes, holiday camps, school classes, one-time events and things like that. So try and cover a whole lot of range. And the idea is that you're providing classes that give kids and parents, trying to promote that really happy, healthy lifestyle, high tempo, high energy, and giving kids that are, very, very little exposure to all these different sports that we all had when we were growing up, especially in Australia. It's something that, we promote really heavily, and we believe that the program is there to really focus on kind of those fundamental skills, fundamental movements from an early age.
Brilliant. I'm going to throw in a question that I hadn't prepared you for, actually. I'm quite interested. Australians, you're known for being a sporty nation, being really into your sports. I think probably your access to the outdoors and the weather probably gives you an advantage there. That's what we like to think. But what sports are most popular with the kids in Australia? What do they love maybe that we don't do over here?
Yeah, no, look, I think the sports like soccer and cricket are still, really popular over here. Rugby's a big one in Australia, and obviously AFL, so Australian rules football, which, we have to ourselves, is a huge one in our market. So, but apart from that, it's the generic sports, the soccers, the rugbies, the crickets, they're always the big ones. Tennis is another one. And I think the big thing that parents used to do, going back, to my kind of generation, was give you exposure at a really young age to all of those sports. And I think there's been probably a pretty big dynamic and pretty big shift away from that. A lot more kind of, in front of a computer screen and the like these days. So that's kind of why we're trying to roll it back a little bit and get the kids a little bit more active.
Great, thanks. Yeah, we're in strange times right now. How have the last few months been for you as a business?
Yeah, well, look, horrific, really. That's the only way to describe it, because it's been Australia had really kind of strict lockdown and strict regulations in place from quite early on. So as of, say, I think it was March 23rd, we ran classes on a Sunday morning as usual, and then Monday it was complete lockdown. So all leisure centres, all, schools, everything, they just shut down overnight to try and, get a handle on what was going on. And so for businesses like us that rely on the big leisure centres to hire courts and run the programs indoors, it meant that you couldn't operate. So, we were completely shut down till last weekend, June 13th. And, obviously restrictions have been easing in Australia, and we're very fortunate to be here right now in terms of what we've got in place. But yeah, it was that really kind of dark time. And I think that's probably where, some of the companies in the UK will be right now. But in a very, very short space of time, it has turned totally around. It has, as of June 13th, classes could start again. There were obviously restrictions in place, but it's been, although we thought it might be quite slow to begin with, the actual uptake has been huge. So that's a really promising thing, because people are there to support you, the whole local business and local support network. And I think that's, something that the UK will sort of find coming, sooner rather than later.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's pent up demand here. The parents want to put their kids back into activities, I think they recognise. I certainly, as a parent, recognise my children need those activities, those interactions, and that exposure to,
Yeah.
different types of experiences that I can't give them in and around the home. So there's definitely that demand. I wonder what was the change in the guidelines, or what are the guidelines just now in Australia? Where do you sit just now in terms of social distancing or groups of people together? What's that look like?
Yeah, so look, it depends kind of what kind of field you're operating in. Obviously, with kids and parents, they're quite strict, but right now it's kind of social distancing of about 1.5 meters. The big rec centres and leisure centres that we use, they've got caps of around 100 to 300 people, and that's kind of increasing quite quickly now. So originally that was, say, 20 people a couple of weeks or 3 weeks ago when they started to reopen. And for classes like us, and it will be the same for guys in the UK, when you've got a cap of 20 people for a large rec centre, it's not actually viable to run the classes because your coverage, you get about 4 or 5 kids.
Yeah.
So that has meant that, with those easing, we get access to the leisure centres, and as long as we are trying as best we can to kind of social distance the kids throughout the classes, they're happy with it. We have very few kind of live cases of COVID-19 at the moment in WA, so it's meant that parents are kind of relaxing a little bit with it. And as long as they can see that you're trying as best you can to kind of keep kids from hugging each other or high-fiving or those sorts of things, then they're very happy with everything that's going on. So yeah.
No, it's good. It's a good positive story. And what gave you the confidence that now was the right time to run your camps? I think certainly in the UK, clubs they want to be able to open, but I think they're waiting for that signal. They're waiting for the moment that gives them the confidence. Was there something in particular, or was it just that this is when you always run your camps? Or
Well, look, I think it was a bit of a two-prong attack for us. The first one was that as soon as we were able to run it, we wanted to get back in there to give parents the option.
yeah,
As long as we knew that we could run the classes or the holiday camps or whatever it was the way that we wanted to, and we were taking measures like spray disinfectant on equipment, hand sanitizers, washing hands before and after the classes, and that's all kind of the bog standard stuff. That was all fine. But then we actually reached out to a whole lot of our parents in our databases and said, hey, we want to get back into it. June 13th, what do you guys think? And even if people weren't enrolled in the class but had previously done it, we were getting emails and messages saying, go for it, get back into it. It was a huge pent up demand for getting their kids out there again. We didn't go online during that period. We call it old fashioned, but we didn't want our kids basically stuck in front of a screen watching us do, exercises and things that they can do at home. It was a case of wanting to get out there with the kids and the mums and the dads and the grandparents and the like. So as soon as we could do that, we went for it. Plus, we had the knowledge that the parents were really looking for it on that. So I think that's something that, as soon as regulations or restrictions allow UK companies to operate, reach out to your database and say, hey, we want to get going. What do you think? Because you get a pretty clear indication from that, what's on people's minds. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were the same as Australia and just said, look, we're all in, let's go for it.
yeah, I think we're expecting that as soon as we can. I think we will. That's great to hear, though. And are you finding the uptakes what you would have expected it to be in any given year, or are you just limited by numbers that you can bring in now, or how's the?
Yeah, no, look, it's a good question. I think the biggest thing for us is we thought there'd be quite a large lag. Obviously, getting feedback from parents saying, yes, 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 it's great is one thing. But then getting them back from, term one when we shut down with class credits or enrolling new people is another. We've been very surprised at the uptake. So we're probably, for let's say enrollments, were the same as term one, we're probably about 80% capacity to what we were, which we are very surprised about. And whether that continues or there's a bit more of a peak, time will tell. But yeah, we have been surprised at how quickly it's kind of gone back to normal.
That's fantastic news. And you mentioned the hand sanitizer, and just the kind of, I think the general sense of responsibility, I think that you're introducing, and I wondered if there's any other specific changes that that you've had to make or that you've decided to make to help your classes run safely.
Yeah. Look, we're quite our classes involve kind of a fair bit of contact with the kids. So high fives, and the kids run up and hug you, and there's Coach Andrew or whatever it is. So that's all had to kind of stop. The kids still try and do it. That's fine. You can kind of, I'm really sorry, blah blah blah. And also kind of the spacing. So we do sort of stretching and warm ups and running in our classes. So having sort of mats spread out evenly over a court, and it's all kind of pre-set out. So the kids, they run, they pick up a ball, they hop on their mat, and so that by default shows that the parents, you're really trying to comply with this, with the restrictions. There's going to be elements in these classes, and again, it'll be the same in the UK with dealing with children, where you can't limit them getting too close, close enough to sort of touch each other and things like that. But as long as they see, you've got guidelines there, you're asking parents to kind of not socialise at the end of a class, to leave the venue so the next class can come in, please put these on the hand sanitizer on the kids and things like that.
Yeah.
They're really comfortable with that. So yeah.
Did you find parents needed quite a lot of reassurance with those measures, or did you find that they quite naturally just took part as you suggested?
Look, I think we probably, it's only been going for just under a week, so it's still maybe a little early to sort of have an answer on it. But I think that we probably went over the top with it. So we kind of sat them down on mats and spread them out, and please wash your hands. Here's this, and I think they were a little bit caught off guard, because I think a lot of parents were probably happy to just go with whatever, even though that's not maybe what they should have been doing. That's kind of, I think you go back into your default very, very easily. So look, we went probably a bit over the top, and that might have been a really good thing long term, because I think we'll keep some of these sort of procedures in place moving forward now, rather than going back to what we used to do. And when parents see that, they have that peace of mind that you're doing the right thing.
Great, thanks very much. And you talked about using your database for communications. Have you found having an online system has been beneficial to take the payments and for the messaging? Has that been part of this for you?
Look, overall, Class for Kids has saved us a little bit. It's been a bit of a blessing, because we were really kind of messy behind the shanes, looking for a system that could kind of handle everything. And what it's allowed is, rather than sending out bulk emails or whatever it is, you click a few buttons and parents are updated on what the latest news is. So we kind of had a staggered start, with some venues opening, some waiting a little bit longer. And it just meant that you could clearly send out what's required for each venue. Then you take payments on these venues when you can. It was a very smooth operation, and that the less kind of cash handling or manhandling and enrolments, that were manually being done by coaches, just meant that everything was smooth. So anything that we could do now, that could make that kind of the recommencement as smooth as possible, was brilliant. So having everything in place like that was hugely beneficial for us.
What's the future looking like beyond these camps, Andrew? Can you see that far just now? Or
Yeah, no, look, it's a really good question again. I think that the future's looking bright. We're a really optimistic bunch in Australia by default, I think, and so I think that hopefully rubs off on a few other people. But I think from our point of view, having a really good uptake with our classes and holiday camps, in a really short space of time, shows that people are wanting to get out there. They're wanting to do these things with their kids and parents and grandparents and the like. So, we're really happy. The whole shutdown period gave us a little bit of time to sort of reset from the back end, and sort of say to ourselves, right, what do we want to focus on, rather than, is it the holiday camps? Is it term time classes? And it's given us a bit of kind of a better positioning moving forward. So look, we think it's going to be great, really, a really bright future ahead for us. And hopefully that means that we're operating in the UK shortly and things like that, and all of these things move along. But yeah, there's certainly no negative kind of downside to this at the moment, especially now that Australia's, as I said, Australia's fortunate coming out of that kind of dark time, and it's amazing how quickly things turn around.
yeah, just talking about the schools and how they're maybe moving a little bit more slowly in their ability to open up their facilities again to providers. Do you have any insights or advice on how to approach that conversation with schools or what to expect with that conversation?
Yeah, look, we a lot of the schools that we've operated in previously have kind of they're being very cautious about reopening. Although the schools are up and running and everything, it's all fine. We think it's probably in Australia term three until they sort of get things back in. And just had a really kind of honest and general chat with them to sort of say, right, what are you thinking? What, is there going to be a good time to recommence? How are we going to do it? One school jumped at it and is locked in for term three. So regardless of kind of what the restrictions are there, they're happy for us to come back. So, I think schools are really eager. It's just that the government in Australia is quite strict with these things. So it's sort of a step-by-step process. And if you can limit this sort of the exposure some kids are getting at schools with things, they think it's a good thing. So, it'll be a slow build, but look, we're already seeing we've got one school locked in and kind of you're talking to three or four more that you deal with sort of on a weekly basis. So I'm sure it's not long till, they'll sort of say yes as well. So it's, yeah, look, again, it's looking good in terms of that side of things. It just, unfortunately, schools are probably the last to sort of say yes, we're ready to go. But yeah, look, all looking bright eventually.
That's fantastic, Andrew. Thanks so much for your time. I'm sure you've offered a lot of insight and information to a lot of people and businesses who are looking for it right now. We'll be sure to share this. And yeah, thanks once again, and wish you all the best for your camps and the terms coming in the future.
Pleasure. Happy to talk. Thanks for that, Duncan.